Hello chess friends and welcome to your of chess channel and welcome to the Altibox Norway Chess tournament in 2020. We're now already in the round 6 and the most exciting game of the day was of course the match between Jan-Krzysztof Duda and the world champion Magnus Carlsen. Usually this wouldn't be maybe the derby of the day, but yesterday Jan-Krzysztof Duda managed to really to do a great thing. He stopped Magnus Carlsen non-losing streak. Magnus Carlsen till yesterday hasn't lost a game for 125 consecutive classical time format games. It was really incredible, and yesterday he lost his first game after 2 years and 2 months. Incredible stuff. So it was a historical moment yesterday. So many times we have seen when Magnus Carlsen loses a game, then he wants his revenge. Then he wants to really kick you really hard. So it's I really was expecting now that Magnus Carlsen will try in this game against Duda to crush him, really to really outplay him in every moment of the game, and be prepared. This is really the rage of the world champion. So let's check out now the game. D4 played by Magnus. So we have D5, C4 by Duda, C4, C6 by Duda. So we have the Slav defense, and we have now the move E3. You could proceed, of course, with the common knight to F3, knight to C3 setup, but Magnus plays this E3 move. He doesn't want to risk these ideas. There are, of course, this opening ideas with D takes C4 and B5, really trying to hang on to our extra pawn. So it's E3. We have knight to F6, knight to C3, and now E6. This is now the semi-Slav setup. One of the ideas now is to wait, to delay the situation a little bit. We are waiting White's move to play the move bishop to D3. Then we could get a tempo D takes C4 followed with B5, A6, bishop to B7, and then something like C5. These are the main ideas of the semi-Slav setup. Here, B3 played by Magnus. He delays still the situation with the bishop here on D3. We have B6, and here Duda deviates a little bit maybe from the main theory, but it's a good choice sometimes to have the flexibility here with his pawns, with the C pawn and the B pawn, so we can still make progress with C5, but we can also in some occasions make the progress with the potential B5 move. Here Magnus simply develops his dark square bishop, bishop to B7, and now comes bishop to D3. So now I think this idea, D takes C4, bishop takes C4, and B5 doesn't bring you so much as you have already played with your B pawn once, so it's sort of a loss of tempo. So now the usual semi-Slav idea is not so good here, and in the game knight from B to D7 was played, and now knight from G to E2. You could also try knight to F3, but the idea of this move knight from G to E2 is to keep a little bit more flexible position here. We want to have maybe opportunities to play the move F3 and really break the center with the move E4. Then we could create really a central pawn storm. So it's both situations are of course good. Knight to F3 is possible here, but here knight from G to E2 is a more flexible idea here of White. So bishop to D6. Castling, so far nothing special has happened, and now comes knight to G3. The idea is also to support further our E4 progress. As I said, this could be, I think, a good idea to make some kind of a pawn breakthrough. Here's C5, so that's why Jan-Krzysztof Duda doesn't allow this scenario. He wants to challenge Magnus Carlsen's center immediately, and we have now C takes D5. So this position has been already played in chess history between two top grandmasters, but now after C takes D4 and knight to E4, we have now a new position in which Magnus Carlsen has now really good control with the centers, with the knights in the center. So this knight is already challenged, and what Magnus Carlsen is aiming here, of course, is the weak G7 pawn. If this diagonal opens, maybe we get rid of this knight, then we can get with our queen on this very active square on G4 and attack maybe the G7 weakness. So here bishop to G3. So here Jan-Krzysztof Duda deflects really the knight from the attack. He doesn't want this knight to be on the attacking side. So here Magnus takes, knight takes G3. If you take with the pawn, it's not so good because you get D takes E3, and then you would have really weakened pawn structure in front of the king. So after knight to G3, we have D takes E3 by Duda, and now D takes E6. We have E takes F2, rook to F2, and now F takes E6. So still, this game was also played in chess history. It was a game I'm seeing here in the database. It was Pashikian against Matlakov. and Pashikian won with the white pieces here. So as I said, this position has been reached in chess history. Now queen to e2, Magnus Carlsen is following still this main theory of this line. What the good thing about whites is, of course, that we have the bishop pair, and the bishop pair is good to have in such an open position. On the other hand, we're a pawn down, but Magnus goes here really all in. As I said, he wants his revenge against Duda because he stopped his record, and now queen to e2, really the natural idea to attack simply the weak e6 pawn. So knight to c5, here Duda played now an attack and also a defense of the e6 pawn. In the Matlakov Pashikian game, rook to f7 was played, and black simply gave up his pawn. But here, knight to c5 by Duda, also a counter-attack, and we have now bishop to c2. But when we see now white's setup here, it's really a dangerous setup. You see the queen is here on a very nice centralized square. The rook is aiming here. The bishops are very active. The knight could be also used as a deflection piece. We could also try maybe some kind of deflection, maybe try to attack this weak two pawns first. So bishop to a6, Duda plays here really an active game. We have now queen to e1, and now I think comes really the critical moment of the game. Here Duda makes maybe his first mistake in the game. It was the move queen to e8. Basically, you don't have to defend this pawn immediately. You can play the knight on d5. It's a more active move. I think after something like rook to f8, we have queen to f8, and now b4. We are kicking away the knight. Now knight to d3, but now I think the game is much more simplified after queen to f7, and now maybe something like rook to f1, knight to f6, but now bishop to f6. Okay, white is slightly better here, but I think we can hang on to this position. We can really make something happen, but it's a more simplified line, and I think in the top grandmaster level you can draw this position. But in the game, queen to e8 was played, and the queen is now on a weird square because now you see Jan-Krzysztof Duda has lost a little bit the battle on the d file. Now we could also deflect somehow. The queen of b4 pawn breakthrough is also our main tactical motif. We want to deflect really the knight from the defense of the e6, and still these bishops are really dangerous here. All of the pieces, if you have noticed, are coordinated to the right side, to the king side. It's really a nice attacking harmony of the pieces of white. So rook to c8, we have now finally this move b4, knight to b7. Maybe here knight to d7, simply trying to keep the position between our knights compact, because we want to have this reloading system. If the bishop takes out the knight, then we could still recapture with the knight. Although in one particular moment of the game you will probably lose the pawn on e6. It's not a problem about that, but you really have to have your pieces in front of your king for the knight to b7. Now the knight is simply too far away from the action. Magnus plays simply this idea, as I said, deflecting the knight from the defense of these two pawns, and now it's already in dangerous position. Knight to d5, but now rook to f8, queen to f8, and now bishop to b1. Still staying on this diagonal. Here Jan-Krzysztof Duda makes now a huge blunder. He plays the move queen to b4, and here I want you to stop the video and try to really find the best next move. It's a great tactic that Magnus saw now. It's a really a great move. Take your time. It's maybe not so easy to see, but it's a great deflection motif here. That it's a deflection double attack motif. Great attack by Magnus Carlsen. Okay, I hope you could have found this move, because it's the move knight to f6. Of course, knight takes f6, you lose the queen, and it comes with a check, so you have to react. If you take with the g pawn, g takes f6, then we have simply queen to e6, and you will lose your rook. And you see, still these bishops are very dangerous. So that's why here, after the move queen to b4, knight to f6, king to h8 was played. But now Magnus simply takes the pawn again on e6. Still the rook is hanging in the game. Rook to a8 was played, and now queen to d4, queen takes d5, and in this position Jan-Krzysztof Duda resigned. So incredible attack. It was move 26, and Jan-Krzysztof Duda resigned. So this was really the revenge of the world champion. Here, if you take, of course, didn't get checkmated, you cannot even compete here on the d file. Rook to d8 will simply take, queen takes d8 followed with rook to d8, till it's a checkmate. So you saw what you see what happens if you really challenge the world champion Jan-Krzysztof Duda. Saw now the revenge really of Magnus Carlsen. Incredible game, incredible tactic that Magnus Carlsen has prepared here. But okay, it was maybe a couple of inaccuracies that Duda played here, but still this was a perfect attack here by the world champion, and I hope he can play like this in the future, because we need really a free Magnus Carlsen, that he can really play freely. He has now his world record. He doesn't have to bother about that anymore. Now he can go on and push the game to the limit. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot, although it was a Magnus Carlsen miniature. It was a short game, but it was an incredible tech. If you want to see more games from this tournament, check out my Altibox Norway Chess tournament link here. And if you want to see the best chess games of all time, check out my best chess games of all time series. And if you like this content, you can also subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.